Hi, it's Katrina! From a mysterious dragon skeleton to a lost warship full of treasure, here are 10 mysterious and unexpected things found underwater. Number 10. Ancient Roman Sea Fortress. Russian divers recently stumbled upon an ancient Roman sea fortress hidden beneath the waves. This was done thanks to Russian scientists from Sevastopol State University, who were diving off the coast of Syria when they came upon 3 ancient naval structures, a fully blown port, and a Roman sea fortress that had apparently never before been discovered. And to make things even more interesting, the discovery was made near the port city of Tartus, which the Crusaders had called Tortosa. This place has a long history of combat, trade, and culture. It's also one of the best preserved Syrian-Palestinian medieval cities that is still around today. According to Dr. Tatarkov, who worked closely with the divers and archaeologists on the project, the sea fortress was constructed sometime in the 1st century A.D. The divers found a lighthouse, 4 marble columns, and 3 sunken wharfs. There were even some ancient hydraulic structures such as breakwaters and quay walls. When placing all these discoveries together, you have an entirely new section of the port city that must have been flooded sometime in the last 2,000 years. The team also recovered hundreds of tiny fragments of ancient Greek amphorae and Roman household artifacts made of stone, Phoenician pots, and Egyptian vases. While these might not seem as important as the whole entire site, they actually provide pieces to the ancient puzzle and can help archaeologists rebuild a map of the ancient trade routes that once went through this city. Number 9. India's Lost City. Divers in India recently discovered some very unexpected archaeological evidence underwater that could, if properly verified, rewrite the ancient history of the entire subcontinent and even the world. Marine archaeologists have used sonar scanning equipment to send beams of sound waves to the bottom of the sea, where they identified massive geometrical structures inside of a vast region about 5 miles long and 2 miles across. The researchers were actually performing a study about the Ice Age. These geometrical structures are thought to predate the oldest remains anywhere in India by over 5,000 years. This accidental discovery was revealed by Graham Hancock in his new documentary, in which he details that there is an ancient city hiding at a depth of 120 feet, just 25 miles from the shore. However, according to Mr. Hancock, this discovery has been swept under the rug because archaeologists in power are afraid that it could flip everything we know about the origins of civilization on its head. He says that man-made objects from these submerged cities have yielded carbon dates up to 9,500 years old. That's 5,000 years older than any city discovered by archaeologists anywhere. It means that we are dealing with a civilization lost at the end of the Ice Age, perhaps even one of those that the flood myths speak of, which flourished before history began. The city allegedly discovered off the coast of India is estimated to have been the size of Manhattan. A piece of wood was dated back to 9,500 years ago, so Hancock is saying that when Stonehenge was built, this mysterious lost city would already have been 5,000 years old. What this means is that we could be dealing with a civilization that was lost just at the end of the Ice Age, and this would suggest that human beings all over the world had actually been thriving in civilizations long before previously thought. But after some mysterious event, all traces of them were lost. However, experts argue that the artifacts from the site were brought up by dredging, which mixes everything together, instead of by a controlled archaeological excavation. Construction material, pottery, wall sections, sculptures, and human bones were all found, but dating them was quite difficult. The only confirmed date was from the small piece of wood, but that does not a civilization make. Good news is there was actually a large cache of archaeological remains, so it is just a matter of time before we discover the truth. And now for number 8, but first want to give a big shout out to Callum Smart and Lee Bremmel. Thanks so much for the nice comments and for supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us. Number 8. The Kibatos Castle. The Kibatos Castle is a Byzantine-era fortress sitting at the bottom of the Sea of Marmara in the northwest of Turkey. This ancient castle was first unearthed totally by accident in 2019, while archaeologists were doing underwater research in the area. They unexpectedly found the castle about 10 feet deep, totally submerged and mostly in ruins. Experts believe that the castle was probably submerged during an ancient earthquake, with a survey team currently searching for evidence to find out more about the castle and if it holds any interesting ancient secrets. As far as we know, the area in which the castle was found dates back to between the 4th and 12th centuries, being used by both the Byzantines and the Ottomans. There was also a pier and a lighthouse found near the castle, suggesting a catastrophic event destroyed a large section of the coastal town. The Kibatos Castle was constructed during the rule of Emperor Alexius, and it even served as a bastion of defense when battling against the European Crusaders. The castle has been mentioned in several historical chronicles and witnessed many important events in history. Efforts are now underway for it to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Number 7. Ancient Underwater Cave. When researchers Fred Davos and Sam Meacham from the Quintana Roo Aquifer System Research Center decided to do a bit of diving in the submerged cave La Mina, they became the first humans to enter this mysterious site in about 10,000 years. This long-forgotten cave is located underneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Down in the murky depths of the underwater cave, these researchers discovered hammers made from broken stalagmites, a ceiling covered in soot, and traces of ochre, all of which have led them to believe the cave was used as a mine over 10,000 years ago. According to Brandi MacDonald from the University of Missouri, archaeological evidence has suggested that human beings have been mining and utilizing ochre for hundreds of thousands of years. Humans use this pigment to make cave paintings and when practicing mortuary rituals. In fact, ochre is still used today in places like Namibia for things such as bug repellent, sunscreen, and for tanning animal hides. Ochre was used for quite a lot, which explains why the ancient people of Mexico put their lives in danger 10,000 years ago to extract it from this mine, which of course wasn't underwater back then. It's pretty amazing that these two men entered a place where humans hadn't stepped in thousands of years. The Maya would arrive thousands of years after the ochre mine was already abandoned, but they already knew that there was something special and important about these underwater caves. Number 6. A tiny seahorse. In much cuter news, a new species of seahorse has unexpectedly been discovered off the coast of South Africa. This tiny little critter is about the size of your fingernail, and yet it is one of the most mystifying sea creatures recently found. It's only about 2 centimeters in length, and is the first ever pygmy seahorse seen in the waters off the coast of the continent. And what makes it even cooler is that the research team concluded that this newest seahorse is distinctly different from the other 7 known species, with its closest relative around 5,000 miles away. Did you know that almost all species of seahorse are under threat of extinction? Because of habitat destruction and bottom trawling, there are already several different species listed on the IUCN Red List of threatened species. There may already be species gone that we didn't even know about. Pygmy seahorses are so incredibly unique that scientists have not been able to learn much about them, and even though they found this newest species and documented it, the small pygmy seahorse is still a scientific mystery. Number 5. Dragon skeleton. The skeleton of a dragon may have just been discovered underneath the deep blue. Unfortunately, this newest discovery is so vague and secretive that we don't even know where it was found. An internet sleuth was browsing Google Earth and shared that the bones of this legendary monster were apparently found off the coast of an unnamed island, with the bones being over twice the size of the island itself. There is what the user says is the shape of a mythical dragon underneath the crystal blue waters, and it looks significantly different from any sandbar or buried geological feature. You can see the horns at the top of the head, the extremely long neck, and what could be ribs and bone fragments. Could this be some sort of extinct dinosaur or marine reptile skeleton, the remnants of a leviathan sea monster, or could it be some other kind of ferocious beast that was the size of a small island? While this would be awesome, other people claim that the person is just searching for shapes in the clouds and that the skeleton and horns are actually just a sandbar. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 4. Ancient preserved forest. Scientists have discovered a bizarre underwater forest that dates back 60,000 years, and they think that the preserved trees within this forest could help engineer new medicines. The forest is built of cypress trees, and it's located just on the banks of a wide river near the Gulf of Mexico. It was just as humans began wandering out of Africa that the trees here became buried under sediment. The sea level rose and the forest was submerged and buried. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reports that for 60,000 years it remained completely undisturbed. Then, in 2004, Hurricane Ivan devastated the Gulf Coast. The seabed and the sediment that had kept the forest perfectly preserved were wiped away. A few years later, a team of scientists working from Northeastern University organized an expedition to go down there and bring back some pieces of the ancient lost wood. The operation was a huge success, and according to Brian Helmuth, who had participated in the dive, it was like diving into a vat of chocolate milk with almost zero visibility. Plus, the entire area was swarming with sharks. But it was all worth it when they got into the forest and found stumps of pristine wood just sticking out of the embankment. They managed to haul some giant chunks of wood back up to the surface, and they found about 300 different organisms inside of it, including a type of shipworm. After isolating some bacteria from the shipworm specimens, 12 bacteria are currently undergoing specialized DNA sequencing, with hopes that they will be able to contribute to new drug treatments for pain and anti-cancer medications. Number 3. The frozen battlefield. A new and unexpected breakthrough in archaeology has revealed a frozen battlefield, where 800 soldiers died while fighting on the Baltic Sea. The wreckage of the Swedish warship Mars was just found in pieces at the bottom of the ocean. This warship was made sometime between 1563 and 64, and at the time it was the biggest warship ever constructed. But then, in 1564, while participating in the Northern 7 Years' War, the vessel caught on fire and exploded. Richard Lundgren from Ocean Discovery recently told National Geographic that he was intrigued by the legend of Mars since he was a little boy. Besides its historical value, there was a rumor that the ship had gone down with a large treasure full of silver coins. There were many attempts to find the ship, but all of them failed. Finally, Lundgren and his team hit the jackpot. He said that descending down towards the Mars wreckage was like jumping into a time machine and going 450 years back in the past. Richard and his colleagues not only found the broken vessel, but also the legendary treasure worth an enormous amount of money. There are estimated to be at least 220,000 silver coins scattered throughout the wreckage, but there could be more for them to find. But the grisliest of all were the human remains. The researchers believe that the ship sank with 800 soldiers on board, making this one of the creepiest dive sites ever discovered. They said it was quite eerie because you can see a lot of bones down there strewn all across the wrecked ship. The water conditions and lack of oxygen have helped keep the skeletons preserved after all this time. Number 2. Submerged 7,000-year-old site. Stone tools scattered across the ocean floor off the coast of Australia have recently been dated back 7,000 years, making the submerged site the first of its kind. Australia has a long history of humanity going back at least 65,000 years, but because of the way the Earth has changed throughout those years, many of the most important sites are now under the surface of the ocean. But that doesn't mean all is lost. This most recent discovery, which was outlined in the journal PLOS ONE, reveals that many indigenous landscapes, artifacts, and maybe even settlements are still preserved just offshore. The research team went in practically blind, not really knowing what to expect, and they said, "We just figured if we could throw every bit of technology and a lot of smart people at the problem, after 3 years we should come up with something." But why is so much of human history in Australia underwater? This is because 12,000 years ago, the glaciers melted and the sea level suddenly spiked, and a lot of Australia's habitable land was engulfed with water. The team used planes with LiDAR and sonar on boats to scan the area. The first few sites didn't show anything really, but this area, known as Murujuga, also the Dampier Archipelago, has a wealth of archaeological sites. This dry and rocky region in northwestern Australia is already rich with over 1 million different examples of rock art and heaps of indigenous artifacts. But as the team found, there is even more just hidden off the shoreline. When the team took a look at another site, they were very happy to find some stone tools about 8 feet below the surface. Then, at another site 45 feet below the surface, they found tools dating back 8,500 years. In total, the team found hundreds of stone artifacts. Most of these tools were used for scraping or cutting or even for hammering. These discoveries provide clues to how people crossed the sea to arrive to Australia and how they lived. It is also the first time that maritime sites have been found in the tropics that can be dated back over 5,000 years. Number 1. A forgotten culture. A team of Native American tribal citizens recently came upon a rather unexpected discovery, which could be proof that a culture from the Ice Age lived in the Great Lakes area 10,000 years ago. The discovery was made in the Straits of Mackinac when the group used a remotely operated underwater vehicle to take a look at some oil and gas pipelines stretching across the bottom of the lake. They also found stones arranged in a variety of patterns on the lake floor, suggesting that at one time, a culture had been using the lake as some kind of settlement, long before it was ever filled with water. According to Andrea Pierce, one of the locals involved in the mission, nobody had expected to find any sort of archaeological evidence of anything. But here's where things get controversial and crazy. Because the citizens were able to find the ancient formations and patterns so easily by themselves, they questioned who else knew they were there and allowed the pipeline to be installed through them, completely destroying the historic location. It's likely that somebody knew the relics of an ancient civilization were sitting at the bottom of the lake, but they put the pipeline through anyway because they didn't care. Now it's going to be very hard for archaeologists to do any kind of investigating, meaning that we may never know who built the monuments and why they were kept a secret. Thanks for watching! Which underwater discovery was your favorite? Which one did you think was the most mysterious? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!